Just like Bernie Sanders before, AOC is making communism, socialism great again. Side note, one too many shitty politician slogans in this intro. As if communism, socialism ever was great, but seriously, this joke of a Congress representative comes from the Bronx. I sure as hell didn't vote for her. AOC seems to think and talk a lot. In fact, I think she talks too much. Let's be honest, her ideas aren't the brightest. I digress, but AOC is an easy target. What I really want to discuss today is a philosophy that she is trying and failing to push as the new way forward. Before I start ripping AOC and her recent comments about how being morally right trumps being factually wrong, let me explain why communism and socialism is great on paper. I'm going to totally ignore the facts, totally ignore the realities, and in a literally ideal world, communism/socialism would function very smoothly. In the ideal communist society, there would be no classes. There would be no private property. There would be peace and love. Complete zen. Everyone would be workers who own the factories. There wouldn't be anyone higher than anyone else. The shared responsibility for society's success would fall on the shoulders of the great proletariat. In a similar and not so distant world, socialism would be the law of the land. The benevolent government would run social programs from healthcare to welfare. The government would nurture each man, woman, and child. The people would humbly pay taxes and gladly contribute more than their fair share. Well, okay, not gladly, because if you don't pay taxes, you go to jail. Everyone would be so happy in these similarly ideal worlds. Just keep dreaming. Don't these two forms of economic and ruling systems sound amazing? Are Bernie Sanders and AOC onto something? Nope. Sorry to jar you from your wonderful dream, but there are realities that even the most ardent socialists or communists can't reckon to go away. Yes, AOC, it doesn't matter if you're morally right, the facts are always right. I'll be the first to admit that capitalism is not a moral system. In fact, there are no moral systems. You can argue whatever you want, but trust me, in the end, someone always gets effed. Let's start with the problems of communism. Responsibility, greed, self-interest, corruption, logic. These are just some of the words that could be used to describe the problems with communism. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse because it's clear that communists don't understand simple political theory. Humans are naturally greedy and self-interested when it comes to being political actors. Humans are very predictable. Any psychologist could tell you this. Communism doesn't work because there's always going to be a few greedy, corrupt, and self-interested individuals who take advantage of the system. You may have heard of Mao Zedong. Mao was a smart guy that decided that China should have communism and took advantage. Mao lived fabulously. Meanwhile, upwards of 60 million Chinese died or more. My point is that communism is inherently flawed. You may ask, why is responsibility on this list? Well, have you ever had a roommate who doesn't wash the dishes? If not, then you might be that guy. Sorry to say. Communism assumes that all your roommates are going to wash all their dishes and clean up. But the reality of communism is that only one or two of your roommates do anything. In some cases, maybe you all just do nothing. There is no motivation to do anything because you don't own or get anything for your work. Now for socialism, it's basically the same case except one difference. Imagine you have a boss or manager, like from work, in your life all the time. And imagine your paycheck also pays part of their paycheck. Just imagine being watched and monitored in everything you do, no privacy. That is socialism with similar problems to communism, like lack of motivation to work, no responsibility for self, and still boatloads of corruption. You may think, now is the time where I lecture you about how great capitalism is. But unfortunately, capitalism is just an economic system. Capitalism can work with a dictator or democracy. It actually doesn't matter. My point is, that communism doesn't work in real life, and neither does socialism. On paper, they sound really amazing. I really wish that people would just do a quick Google search on the pros and cons of these systems. I find it really hard to understand how people can just flatly accept Bernie Sanders or AOC's proclamations about socialism is morally right. Putting aside everything else, I think they're wrong to assume that any economic system is moral. The facts don't lie. The facts don't support anything like socialism or communism as being a viable economic system. I mean, yes, for a short time they work, but they end up failing. Mankind needs a long, sustaining system, not just some short-term system that just puts years behind from where we currently are. I don't have all the answers, but I know for sure that if we keep heading down the road to socialism and communism, it's not going to end in a wonderful dream. Thank you for listening to Garrett's Life Experiences blog podcast.